See, the problem I have with Cam is that his arrogance is suffocating.
And now, that arrogance might have cost him everything. Shannon Sharpe is calling Cam out, not just for his ego, but for how it led to him going broke. He's exposing how the former MVP burned through his money, and the things he spent it on will leave you speechless. Let's get into it. The shocking financial reality behind Cam Newton's NFL fortune. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait, didn't Cam Newton make like over $100 million in the NFL? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because this story is about to flip everything you thought you knew about NFL money on its head. We're talking about a situation so wild, so unexpected, that even Shannon Sharpe himself had to step in and drop some serious truth bombs about what's really going on behind closed doors. But before we get into Shannon's absolutely brutal takedown of Cam's situation, we need to understand the full scope of what we're dealing with here. Cam Newton, age 35, retired from the NFL after his 1-year, $6 million contract with the Carolina Panthers expired in 2025. During his 11-season career, this man reportedly earned over $133 million from contracts alone. We're not even talking about endorsements, appearances, and all the other money that comes with being a superstar athlete. Now here's where it gets absolutely wild. In recent interviews, particularly one that went viral on Special Forces World's Toughest Test in January 2025, Cam Newton has been completely candid about his financial realities. And when I say candid, I mean this man literally said, being in the NFL, everyone knows there's a large sum of money that comes to you in a short span of time. And being away from the game for 3 years, those checks don't come in the same. Let that sink in for a moment. This is a man who made more money in his NFL career than most small countries' GDP, and he's out here talking about financial struggles. But wait, it gets even more heartbreaking. Newton, father to 8 children, has expressed that it hurts to no longer provide for them as he once did, feeling less like Superman due to reduced earnings. 8 children, y'all. 8. And this man is out here saying he can't provide for them like he used to. That's not just a financial crisis. That's a full-on family crisis that's playing out in the public eye. Now, before we get to Shannon's reaction to all this, we need to understand that Cam's situation isn't actually unique in the NFL world. In fact, it's tragically common. Studies, such as a 2009 Sports Illustrated report, estimate that 78% of NFL players go broke or face severe financial stress within 2 years of retirement. 78%. That's not a small minority. That's the vast majority of players who dedicate their lives to this sport. But here's what makes Cam's situation particularly shocking. We're not talking about some backup player who made league minimum. This is Cam Newton we're talking about, the man who reportedly earned over $133 million from contracts, with a significant portion from a 2015 5-year deal worth over $103 million with the Panthers. This was supposed to be generational wealth, the kind of money that sets up not just you, but your children and your children's children. And yet here we are, watching this financial reality unfold in real time. Reports from January 2025 detail his struggle to manage finances across his large family, despite a reported net worth in the region of $75 million. Now, $75 million sounds like a lot to us regular folks, but when you're supporting 8 children and maintaining the lifestyle that comes with being Cam Newton, that money can disappear faster than you might think. The really interesting part about all this is that some rumors were addressed on his podcast, 4th and 1 with Cam Newton, where he clarified he is not bankrupt. So we're not talking about a complete financial collapse here, at least not yet. What we're talking about is something potentially more concerning, the realization that even massive NFL earnings might not be enough to sustain the lifestyle and responsibilities that come with being a superstar athlete with a large family. This is where the story gets really complex, because it's not just about Cam Newton's personal financial decisions. It's about a systemic issue that affects the vast majority of professional athletes. Research suggests a high rate of financial distress among retired players, with a National Bureau of Economic Research working paper finding that 15.7% file for bankruptcy within 12 years of retiring. But what makes this situation particularly dramatic is the context of everything else that's been happening in the NFL world lately. See, this story doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's happening at the same time as some other major controversies involving Shannon Sharpe himself, which we'll get into in the next parts of this series. For now, though, let's focus on the shocking reality of what Cam Newton is dealing with. When you really break it down, this is a story about the American dream gone sideways. Here's a man who achieved literally everything you could achieve in professional sports: MVP awards, Super Bowl appearances, record-breaking contracts, endorsement deals, you name it. And yet here he is, publicly discussing his struggles to maintain the financial lifestyle he once had. This isn't just about Cam Newton. This is about a pattern that affects the majority of NFL players. The financial challenges Newton faces are not unique, but part of a systemic issue within the NFL, often due to the short average career length of about 4.6 years across major American sports, leaving players to sustain themselves on earnings accumulated over a brief period. Think about that for a second. Most NFL careers last less than 5 years, but players are expected to make that money last for the rest of their lives. It's like trying to squeeze a lifetime of earnings into a college degree's worth of time. No wonder so many players struggle with financial management after retirement. And here's the thing, it's not always about poor financial decisions, though those certainly play a part. Sometimes it's about the sheer scale of responsibility that comes with success. When you're Cam Newton, you're not just supporting yourself. You're supporting 8 children, potentially extended family, maintaining multiple properties, dealing with the lifestyle expectations that come with being a public figure, and trying to build a post-NFL career that can sustain all of that. The pressure must be absolutely insane. Every financial decision becomes a potential make or break moment for your family's future. Every investment, every business venture, every career choice carries the weight of not just your own livelihood, but the livelihoods of everyone who depends on you. This brings us to the heart of why Shannon Sharpe's response to this situation is so significant. Shannon represents a different approach to post-NFL life, one where financial responsibility, continuous work ethic, and strategic career moves take precedence over maintaining the lifestyle you had as an active player.
Everybody, when I call, I expect an answer, or I expect a prompt response. And if it's not, I need to know why. Because we're in this together. We go on vacation at the same time.
Let's now take you where Shannon Sharpe is delivering one of the most brutal takedowns in recent sports media history, and it's all directed at Cam Newton. Shannon Sharpe's savage response and the arrogance problem.
See, the problem I have with Cam is that his arrogance is suffocating. This man was out of the entire NFL last year. And then he comes in with a wish list.
This is Shannon Sharpe coming with the heat, and he's not done yet, not even close.
These are the teams, or these are the players I'm willing to back up.
Shannon is referring to something that absolutely infuriated him. The fact that Cam Newton, while out of the NFL, had the audacity to create a wish list of teams and players he'd be willing to back up. Let that sink in for a moment. A player who was literally unemployed was making demands about where he'd be willing to work, and Shannon was not having it at all.
Skip, I don't have a job, but I'm only willing to work for Apple, Google, Microsoft, JP Morgan, Amazon, Salesforce, American Express, Wells Fargo, Walmart, and Target. I don't have a job. I don't get to call the shots.
Okay, that's absolutely savage. Shannon just compared Cam's situation to being unemployed and still trying to be picky about job offers. This is the kind of reality check that cuts deep, because it's pointing out the fundamental disconnect between Cam's perception of his situation and the actual reality of his circumstances. But Shannon wasn't done destroying Cam's whole approach to his career situation. Oh no, he was just getting started.
Cam, do you realize this? How many teams called you last year? And now you think because you say something on YouTube or you put it out there on social media with your fancy font that these teams like, man, you heard what Cam say? Cam say he back up Deshaun, he back up Lamar Jackson, he back up this and that one.
The shade in this statement is absolutely unreal. Shannon is basically saying that Cam thinks posting on social media with fancy fonts is going to convince NFL teams to sign him. That's such a specific drag, and it shows just how frustrated Shannon is with what he sees as Cam's approach to his career. But here's what makes Shannon's criticism even more powerful. It's coming from a place of genuine knowledge about what it takes to succeed both during and after an NFL career. Shannon Sharpe, born June 26, 1968, is a former professional football tight end, primarily known for his tenure with the Denver Broncos and Baltimore Ravens. Inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2011, Sharpe has transitioned into a prominent sports analyst. More importantly, Shannon has built a media empire after his playing career. He understands the work ethic, the sacrifice, and the business acumen required to maintain success after the NFL. And that's exactly what makes his criticism of Cam so cutting, because he's speaking from experience about what it actually takes to succeed.
My purpose is work. Nothing causes me to get out of bed like work. It's why I struggle to sleep at night, because I can't turn my brain off. I might call one of my EPs of Nightcap, Ash, at 2 o'clock in the morning. This is what I'm thinking. When I call, I expect the answer. Don't send me the voicemail. I felt that. Ash. Better answer that goddamn phone.
This is Shannon explaining his own work ethic, and it's a stark contrast to what he sees in Cam's approach. Shannon is talking about being so dedicated to his work that he can't sleep, that he's calling his team at 2 a.m. with ideas, that he expects immediate responses because they're all in it together. And then Shannon drops this absolute bomb about what real success requires.
There is no vacation until I take a vacation. It's not for everybody. It's not. I'm not for everybody.
Somebody's gonna take that clip right there and say, he's a narcissist. he's a control freak.
Shannon is basically saying that his level of dedication and control isn't for everyone, but he doesn't care about the criticism because he knows what it takes to be successful. And then he delivers the knockout punch.
Call me what you want to, but you also call me successful.
That's the energy. Shannon is essentially saying, you can criticize my methods, but you can't argue with my results. And that's what makes his criticism of Cam so powerful. He's speaking from a position of actual success in the post-NFL world. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. Shannon didn't just criticize Cam's current approach. He also offered some real talk about what it would take for Cam to actually succeed if he wanted to return to the NFL.
Tell me this, should Cam go back to the NFL, and what he got to do?
If that's what Cam wants to do, Cam understands. In order to be great, you got to be a sacrifice. Now, what is Cam willing to sacrifice? Because it's got to be tunnel vision. It's got to be focused. It's hard for the really great players. You got to have a real stable at-home situation to understand.
Shannon is laying out the reality of what it takes to succeed at the highest level. It's not about wish lists or social media posts. It's about sacrifice, tunnel vision, and focus. And he's specifically mentioning the need for a stable home situation, which is particularly relevant given Cam's situation with 8 children and the financial pressures he's facing.
And if you're not willing to pay that price, you don't deserve to be successful. You don't deserve to be great. So the question that Cam is going to have to ask himself, and only he can answer. Yeah. Cam, are you willing to pay that price? Do you want to put your body through that again? Do you want to train the way you train? You got to go back to Auburn Cam when he said, yep, I'm coming out.
This is Shannon getting deep into the psychological aspect of what it takes to return to greatness. He's basically saying that if Cam wants to be successful again, he needs to go back to the mentality he had when he was hungry, when he was proving himself, not the mentality of someone who feels entitled to opportunities.
And you got to go back to that level of training when you didn't have a dime, because even though you have what you have, you got to train like you were broke.
That last line is everything. You got to train like you were broke. Shannon is essentially saying that despite whatever money Cam has left, he needs to approach his training and his career with the desperation and hunger of someone who has nothing to lose. This is particularly poignant given everything we know about Cam's current financial situation. Shannon might be indirectly acknowledging that Cam is in a position where he needs to approach his career with that kind of urgency, whether he wants to admit it or not. Now, here's where this story intersects with some other major drama that's been happening in the sports world. Because while Shannon has been dropping these truth bombs about Cam Newton, he's also been dealing with some serious controversies of his own. Shannon Sharpe is currently facing a $50 million civil lawsuit filed by Gabriela Zuniga, a 20-year-old OnlyFans creator. Zuniga accuses Sharpe of sexual assault, battery, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, seeking significant compensation. This lawsuit has absolutely rocked the sports media world, and it's created a situation where Shannon's own career and reputation are under intense scrutiny. This situation has impacted Sharpe's career, with ESPN stating his return is not guaranteed, casting doubt on his reported $100 million media deal. Cam Newton has actually weighed in on Shannon's legal troubles, and his response shows a completely different side of the relationship between these two NFL legends. But now we're about to dive into the deepest layers of this story, and trust me, it gets even more complex than you could imagine. The deeper truth about financial struggles and controversies.
I hope everything works out, but just the person who Shannon Sharpe is a person who I hold in high regard.
Correct.
As a person that this is like, he's on to everybody.
To everybody, yeah.
So it's like this is not a joking matter. More so to say, like, hold on, what does the facts indicate? We do know that Tony Busby has been on the front line of trying to expose very well-known African Americans. He was a part of the Deshaun Watson case. He was also a part of, the Diddy lawsuit. He was also a part of the case of Jay-Z.
Yeah.
This is huge, y'all. Despite all of Shannon's criticism, Cam is out here defending Shannon's character and pointing out patterns in the legal cases against him. This shows a level of maturity and loyalty that completely reframes their relationship. Cam isn't holding grudges. He's looking at the bigger picture and supporting someone he respects, even when that person has been publicly critical of him.
And I'm not insinuating anything. This is still this is my opinion that I have. Right, wrong, or indifferent. And this is not me saying like I'm taking the side of, Shay, because we don't ascribe to anybody in the assault case.
Correct.
Right? It's just unfortunate that these individuals have to go through this publicly.
Correct.
And I look at it and will say this to anybody. No matter who you are, be careful.
Yes.
No matter what you got going on, popping, not popping, successful, unsuccessful, just be careful. Human rights is real.
That's real.
No means no.
This response from Cam is absolutely mature and measured. He's acknowledging the seriousness of the allegations while also expressing support for Shannon as a person. And that line about no means no shows that Cam understands the gravity of these types of allegations and isn't just blindly defending Shannon. But here's what makes this even more interesting. Cam reveals that he and Shannon have had personal conversations about career advice and financial responsibility.
I had a conversation with Shannon around November, December. Every time he's in Atlanta, he'll stop by, the fellowship, have a dinner, and just kick it. And one of the main things that he says, Cam, you gotta stop cursing. And I'm like, no, bro, no. He said, bro, listen to me. When you playing the corporate game, this ain't you selling yourself, but you gotta play by their rules. You gotta ask yourself, does a brand want to align with your moral compass?
Wow, this completely recontextualizes Shannon's criticism of Cam. Shannon wasn't just throwing shade for no reason. He's been privately mentoring Cam and trying to help him navigate the post-NFL business world. Shannon was telling Cam that to succeed in the corporate media game, you have to play by certain rules, and that includes being mindful of your image and how brands perceive you.
Shannon also advised me on that. He's like, bro, what I'm doing in Nightcap and what I'm doing with Shay Shay, it's like, bro, you can do it too. So it hits a little different when this is a person who you listen to. This is a person who you are a fan of. Yeah. This is a person who you have aspirations to be as well. Yeah. A football player who's evolved into this media juggernaut.
This is absolutely fascinating. Shannon wasn't just criticizing Cam. He was trying to show him a path to success in the media world. Shannon was essentially saying, look what I've built with Nightcap and Club Shay Shay. You can do this too. But the implication is that Cam needs to change his approach to make it work. But here's where the story gets even deeper, because Cam's financial struggles aren't just about poor decision making. They're part of a much larger systemic problem in professional sports. The financial challenges Newton faces are not unique, but part of a systemic issue within the NFL. Research suggests a high rate of financial distress among retired players. A 2009 Sports Illustrated article estimated that 78% of NFL players go broke or face severe financial stress within 2 years of retirement. We're not talking about a small percentage of players having financial issues. We're talking about the vast majority of NFL players struggling financially after retirement. This includes players who made tens of millions of dollars during their careers. Some of the examples are absolutely shocking. Warren Sapp earned $82 million but filed for bankruptcy in 2012 with $6.7 million in debt, later losing his analyst job due to legal issues. Vince Young signed a $25.7 million deal but spent lavishly, including a $6,000 meal, and took high-interest loans during a lockout. Andre Rison earned over $19 million but declared bankruptcy in 2007, citing child support and lavish spending. Even O.J. Simpson was ordered to pay $33.5 million in a civil case, facing foreclosure and unpaid taxes despite a $25,000 monthly pension. And perhaps most tragically, Delonte West was found homeless in 2020, struggling with addiction and financial instability after his playing days. These aren't isolated incidents. They're part of a pattern that affects the majority of professional athletes. Athletes typically hit their earnings peak early, often within a few years of finishing school, and must manage these earnings for a lifetime. Many lack financial education, entering the league with little guidance on managing wealth. So when Shannon criticizes Cam's approach to his career, he's not just being harsh. He's trying to prevent Cam from becoming another statistic in this tragic pattern. Shannon understands that in the post-NFL world, you have to hustle like your life depends on it, because for many former players, it literally does. While Cam has been dealing with financial pressures and career transitions, Shannon has been facing his own major controversies that put his entire empire at risk. The lawsuit, filed on April 21st, 2025, seeks $50 million in damages and has drawn attention from the NFL community. There are also separate accusations from Sharpe's former girlfriend, Michelle Bundy Evans, alleging sexual misconduct, though her protective order was denied. This situation has impacted Sharpe's career, with ESPN stating his return is not guaranteed, casting doubt on his reported $100 million media deal. This creates a fascinating parallel between Shannon and Cam's situations. Both are dealing with threats to their financial security, but for different reasons. Cam's struggles stem from the challenge of maintaining massive financial obligations on a reduced income. Shannon's struggles stem from legal challenges that could destroy his media career entirely. And this is where Cam's mature response response to Shannon's situation becomes even more meaningful. Cam could have used Shannon's legal troubles as an opportunity for revenge after all the public criticism. Instead, he chose to support Shannon and point out the broader patterns at play. The reality is that both of these men are navigating the brutal realities of post-NFL life, where your entire livelihood can be threatened at any moment. For Cam, it's the challenge of supporting 8 children while transitioning from guaranteed NFL income to uncertain media and business ventures. For Shannon, it's the challenge of maintaining a media empire while facing serious legal allegations. Cam is showing real wisdom here about the importance of boundaries and accountability. He's saying that having constraints and people to answer to isn't necessarily a bad thing. It keeps you focused and growing. This is exactly the kind of mindset that Shannon was trying to encourage. When Shannon criticized Cam's arrogance and approach to his career, he wasn't just being mean. He was trying to save Cam from becoming another cautionary tale about NFL, players who couldn't adapt to life after football. And when Cam defended Shannon during his legal troubles, he wasn't just being nice. He was showing loyalty to someone who had invested in his success. The truth is, both of these men are still figuring it out. Success in the post-NFL world requires different skills than success on the football field. And both Shannon and Cam are navigating that transition while dealing with their own unique challenges. What are your thoughts on the Shannon and Cam controversy over finances? Share your take in the comments below, and don't forget to click the cards on screen for more stories.